Okay. It is Wednesday, January 25th. We're a year older, some of us. And so anyway, Joe,
Happy birthday, Steve. Happy birthday.
yeah, from last Friday.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Oh, it
missed
is
the
your
day.
birthday?
It
Or-
was my birthday, yeah.
So you're a
77.
Capricorn.
What's that?
You're a Capricorn, huh?
Well, I'm on the cusp, and if I guess my sun and my moon are both in Aquarius, so I don't know. It depends on what chart I have, and I think I said my wrong birth date when I set up my chart 50 years ago, and so I've been going by the wrong chart, but I don't know. It's somewhere in there. Cool. So Joe, how you feeling? Joe, how you feeling, and what do you expect to get out of today?
Feeling a little, feeling good. And a little bit tired, but I'm feeling good. My expectations for today they're pretty open. I'm just looking to learn something new, and so I really don't have any particular expectations for today, but I know I'll get something out of it because each time that we get together, I always do. So with that, I will say, Susan, how do you feel, and what would you like to take away from the day?
I feel grateful to be here with all of you folks, appreciative of your time, and I expect that my brain's going to be sparked. Tom, how do you feel, and what would you like to get out of today?
Thank you, Susan. I feel very well. I woke up again at 2 a.m. and wasn't able to sleep. So I went down to my meditation room, and lo and behold, there was Steve. He was on Inside Timer also. Went back to sleep about 4:30, woke up at 6. There must be something about the anticipation of Wednesday mornings. It just makes me wake up in the middle of the night. And my expectations have consistently been the same, which is really the same as the Joe, which is that I enjoy hearing to what's happening in your lives and your experiences. And I'm certainly open, and I'll pass it to Wayne, but ask, how's your wife's sister doing?
Oh,
Thank you.
yes.
We really don't know. She's defying the odds. We know that. They gave her a couple of days to live, and that was almost 2 weeks ago. So she is showing some recovery in that she is responding by squeezing and blinking her eyes and different things to speech. She can't understand, but she actually took a cup from Christy when invited to do so and ate some ice. So we don't know if it's neuroplasticity that's taking over or if the damage wasn't quite as severe, but we're still very distraught about it because where do we go from here? You know, even if she comes back a little bit, what kind of a quality of life is she going to have? And then she has the cancer that's stage 4 and eating away at her and causing a clotting. So it's she's probably better off than the family is at this point because she's being well cared for and they're keeping the vigil. But I appreciate you asking. We're praying for wisdom to know what's best for her. And there's a lot of emotion, as you can imagine, in the family, and a lot of currents running back and forth, and some tug of wars over which direction to go, and that gets frustrating for individuals. But so far as she goes, I can't see a scenario where she makes it, and I'm not sad about that. If I were her, I would not want to be alive in the situation she's in. So I just hope that whatever she wants takes place. Thanks for asking. I feel good this morning. I've actually been sleeping better than the last week. I got on top of the pain levels in my feet. The docs are telling me that it's normal to have lots of pain when your nerves start to come back to life. So, but I've found ways to deal with that, and I've been sleeping quite well. So that gives me energy, and my brain is alive. They wanted to put me on some more medication to treat the pain that would numb me up, and I said, no, I don't. I'll take the pain, thank you. I want to have my mind fully in shape in the morning. As far as my expectation for the call, I'm wide open. I'm in free fall. I have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but I'm just grateful that I have a couple hours with my friends here. So thank you. Manu, how are you feeling this morning, and what's your anticipation, intention for the call?
Less sick, but improving. So I'm happy that you guys are on. And to Wayne, you shouldn't despair. My mother was in the same situation, but she was old.
Mhm.
And she fully recovered physically, but mentally she was gone. She was Alzheimer the rest of her life. 10 more
Mhm.
years. She died at 83, but she was Alzheimer for 10 years.
Manu,
Bye.
if I could add something, we did find out that she has excellent disability insurance. It will pay 60% of her salary, and she is a highly paid individual. So her long-term care, if it turns that, is not going to be an issue. And so that is a wonderful blessing. Excuse me for interjecting that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say the difference here is I'm still young. My mother was over 70
Right,
when
right,
it happened.
right.
And you say she's 57, right?
58, yeah.
58. So she can recover. I don't despair. Maybe not all, but she can recover partially. So
Well-
anyway, I'll be most in listening mode because my throat is already sore, and then I have a cold. So, and I expect everything good from you guys. I expect your genius to explode. Explain
Get
some
well.
further things to me. Yeah. So Susan, have you been? No.
It is Steve.
Have you? So Steve left.
It's
Steve.
Joe, I think. Is Joe gone?
I went, it was,
Joe was
it was Steve.
Second, yeah, okay. All right, we're good.
Steve, I do feel what you said.
Well, I feel pretty good. I got inspired by a book this last weekend, and I kept rolling. I've been really stuck because I had about 100 pages of notes here and there of ideas and redundant ideas and neat twists, and I'm trying to make some of these complicated. They are complicated to me anyway. Trying to make them simple. I'm trying to make them palatable for my grandkids, and I'm trying to make it like a 14-year-old reading level because I put out my introduction last November to 2 people, and they said it was way too technical. So I'm trying to make it more metaphoric and cooler. And on night before last, I was so inspired. I was up till 7 o'clock in the morning and then went to bed. And then I kept having hypnagogic insight till after 8. And I'm recovering from that. So I got about 3.5 hours sleep one night. And then last night I got about 5 hours. So I've got about 9 hours sleep in the last 2 nights, and I'll probably hit the sack and try to catch up after this thing. But I'm very excited. I feel like I'm a little bit out of the woods just because I'm sitting down and making myself do something with these little ideas and put them someplace. So I feel like I'm clogging through it. I, like you guys, I'm just here to discuss the universe from a new perspective. And I was talking with Joe yesterday, and I thought I had notes from last week to like pick up and carry on. I usually write down some little things on where we were and what we can talk about, and I couldn't find them. So I'm not sure what our topic is. Now, that said, over the last couple of weeks, Comp with his 52 living years has been really on this new Bucky comprehensivity craze. And so he's doing a bunch of Bucky workshops. I think they have a goal to do 100 workshops on Bucky, and they're doing a couple a week. There's one particular one that discusses a TetraMeme,
Yeah,
which is really a profound concept of how to get the tetrahedron involved in organizational management and employee management and goal setting. And it's pretty cool. There's about 35 minutes that I think are really cool. We could like play that video and stop it and discuss it from point to point, or we can talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So
You say TetraMeme.
TetraMeme, yeah,
yeah.
it's a
It's,
concept. It's a concept that it's really profound. Joe, do you want to comment on it, or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's Let me see if I actually can. I'm gonna try and drop something in the chat. If I can, and
In terms of what? What? Because,
they have a PDF that I downloaded.
oh,
um,
beautiful.
And
Well, just share it, my man.
okay.
I think that's the video, the segment I have is 35 minutes long. And this might be a way to do it. Okay, good. So if you want to narrate through this, that'll be cool.
So they go through certain phases they first developed a TetraMap to help explain Bucky's ideas, and they've actually mapped a lot of the tetrahedron to ancient Chinese literature. And so what they first do is they go into all kinds of places, different corporations, even mentioned some of the military places that they go into, and they make sure. Oh, let me see. There's a top page here.
Joe, are you posting this somewhere?
I didn't post it in the chat yet. I will.
Look at that Fibonacci spiral.
So
Well,
nice.
Yeah.
That's the most interesting part about the whole thing is the spiral.
This
The
is
spiral
intense.
is interesting, but it's not Fibonacci. It's a distortion of
Oh,
Fibonacci.
it's pi. It's pi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's pi.
So they talk about essentially this is a process, set of processes and phases that that you go through in order to basically how to get you aligned with your principles. So let me see here. The first one is they identify the potential within an organization. And that's where they set up the context. So the first phase is looking at inherent potential of the context outside the project. So they look to nature for their solutions. So I'm trying to think of a very good example of this. It's kind of, I look at this as when you're setting context is very similar to identifying the value, but at a more grand scale, because you're looking at it from nature's perspective.
So I can't read those 4 elements there, Joe. Do you want to read what each of those triangles are?
I'm sorry.
Or make it bigger. Make it bigger so we can just see the diagram.
You're going to be excited about that top one, Steve, after what you shared.
Yeah. So the first one is actually potential.
Did you make it bigger? You made it smaller.
No, I made it.
There
That
we go.
worked.
A little bit bigger still. We don't need to see the words. Okay, really good.
Okay.
I can read it now. I don't know if anybody else can.
Everybody read it.
I must say that's the biggest insult of aging is my vision.
Wait a minute. So the first thing that you're doing is actually setting the context. And again, I in my mind goes initially to setting a set of values, but they're actually looking at it from a much deeper level. They're looking at it through the eyes of nature and what is possible outside of what we know. So I think that's that's kind of step one.
And I thought this was the most airy-fairy. I mean, this one lacked coherency. The others were really a lot more meaningful to me. This idea seems arbitrary: potential, relationship, action, and metaphor. Of course, they're trying to think in 4s, and so that's cool. But this was the weakest of the diagrams that I could see.
I haven't seen the others yet, but this one definitely isn't striking me as weak.
Not at all.
Well, wait
Can you go back a minute, Joe? Well, that's
I
okay.
find it
That's
profoundly
fine. I'm happy to see him, but I'm telling you that this is impacting me not only on an intellectual, that's impacting me in my heart space. This whole thing about I mean, I'm looking at that middle red triangle of potential. And then I'm seeing the context come together around it. And my mind is just blowing up here. You know, Manu used the word genius exploding in his introduction. If we look at that center triangle, now imagine a triangle at any corner of that becoming the next center triangle. This is the replication pattern of the universe.
Yeah.
This is the structural pattern of the universe. And it all starts with potential. In the void, in that great void, there is all potential. That's all there is. And it is our energy and our choice and how it's directed that activates that potential. How does that happen? Through relationship, first of all, with the energy, through a metaphor, like you said, Steve, some story that we tell ourselves. In other words, visualization with emotion, and then finally acting upon that for application to bring into reality, bring into creation, bring into matter, to bring into manifestation, if you will, whatever it is that occupied that first square to begin with. Now, Joe, if you could go to that next one we started with, please. It had the spiral on it.
Yeah.
This is the
And I-
weakness. No, this is
and
the
I-
weakness of their paradigms. Go ahead.
Okay,
So look-
Steve, I'm not willing to label it as weak.
But
I don't know what the comparison is or the judgment is there, but I'm really not willing to label this as weak. I just want to put that out on the table.
And I think that if we were to change the context of it, so one of this is listed as within context, and they're unleashing the potential. But in another, if we go above here, or if we go below.
Can I say, can I?
Oh, please do. Please forgive me.
Can you go back to the top? Okay. Sorry if I speak slow because
Please,
I
Because it
know
hurts.
I'll apologize.
All right, but when I look at this, can I propose this? Potential is like dream teleology. The where. I put the word where, dream teleology. Let me continue. The metaphor, I put the words and symbol. The relationship, I put radiation. And then the action, I put calibration and focus. So if you take that triangle from the top here to the bottom corner of action is word, symbol, calibration, focus. If you take it at the bottom is calibration, focus, radiation. If you take the other side is radiation and words again. But all of that is to uncover the potential that is inside.
Right.
What you dream of. It's just a way of putting it. Okay, I'm true.
Can I share screen for a minute?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Let's go down to the second slide, but let me share my screen, Steve, if you can relinquish, please.
I don't relinquish.
I
I have mine is totally democratic. Anybody can share anytime they want.
All
So
right.
do I have to stop?
Nope.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to get back to Zoom here. Sorry, guys.
You can stop if you want to, Joe, but anybody can interrupt anybody sharing.
Okay. Hold on. What is going on here?
Nice to see everybody's beautiful face.
Now, I'm not seeing any of that. I'm stuck in something. Okay, let me just go out of this. I guess I'm gonna have to go out. I'm stuck in full screen, so I'm not being able to.
Click on the screen, move your mouse, click anywhere on the screen and hit the escape key.
Not working.
Yeah, well, you have a Mac.
I do, and I love it.
Yeah.
You better get some sleep, Steve. You're a little testy this morning.
Well, just
I'm
the
sorry,
way the
guys.
video
Go ahead. I'll catch up.
The video
right.
starts, it explains things a lot more basically, and then goes into this topological.
Would you want to watch the first few minutes of the video?
I'd like to Would you
Let's
guys
do
be
that.
okay if we did that?
I think that, yeah, I don't think that I was doing justice to the authors.
Joe, you're fantastic, but one of our principles is we honor source.
Yes.
I wouldn't
Thank
care to watch 30 minutes of it, but whatever you
Well,
think's best. At least not on the call. I'd like to share my time with you guys. I can watch it myself later.
Can you get out of there, Wayne, and share?
Apparently I can't. And I don't know, I've never had this problem.
I think you'll find that this is pretty worthwhile. So, and we're here, so we'll go for it. Let me see. I muted this.
4 minutes.
I can't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Long ago, in the 1970s, John and I sailed from here to the Marshall Islands, which is 7 degrees north of the equator.
I'm gonna miss.
The wisdom
Here we
of
go.
Bucky and his total understanding of the principles of nature, and they all blend beautifully. So at the heart of TetraMap are nature's principles of diversity, interdependence, synergy, and procession. So in 2021, out pops TetraMeme. So very hard. We had no children. We had TetraMap, and this shape is very hard to give birth to, I can tell you. But thanks to Mother Nature, our 2 babies are TetraMap, Earth, Air, Water, Fire, and TetraMeme, also Earth, Air, Water, Fire. So thank you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for just being here and listening to us, because the more we can verbalize it, and this is something for all of us to learn, the more we can verbalize our ideas, the more we'll learn about ourselves, what we're trying to share, and about each other. So the beauty of TetraMap is that it is linear, earth, air, water, fire. It is binary. We looked at left brain, right brain, up, down, in, and out. And the important thing to remember is that we are all 4 elements.
Okay, and I cut off. I wish I could edit this thing, but that
Or we can verbalize our
her TetraMeme thing is when she holds up that map. I want to stop it and identify. Oh, I cannot. That's really
So
okay.
is she saying TetraMap or TetraMath as in
She's saying
mathematics?
TetraMap, M-A-P.
Is that the same as Bucky's Dymaxion map? I mean, he didn't
Almost
introduce
the same, but not quite. This is what I
Okay.
wanted to show.
Okay.
This is a tetrahedron. This is earth. This is air. This is water, and this is fire over here, the sun. So she has this. She's combined the TetraMeme with the 4 elements based in Aboriginal cosmology, and particularly Chinese cosmology. So here's earth, air, water,
where-
and fire.
Where is
What?
the tetrahedron?
The tetrahedron is this
Earth, wind,
map.
fire,
Yeah,
and water.
earth, air, water, and fire. And can you see? Let me see. I could.
I'm not seeing a
This.
tetrahedron.
You do see the tetrahedron? Does
I do
everybody-
not see it.
All right, good. So let me bring it down in here. I'll put it down in here, and then let me draw some lines here. Is anybody else seeing the tetrahedron?
Yeah, they look like pyramids on the left.
Yeah, if you.
Oh, is
yeah,
that all?
here-
You're talking about the image inside of the map?
Yes, the
Oh. I thought you were
the
talking
map.
about the shape of it.
the map folds into a tetrahedron. So there's
Oh,
one.
so those are tabs that fold down. I've got it. Okay.
Exactly right.
All
and
right.
then, and just to make.
And so that tetrahedron she held up was that folded.
Yeah, this is unfolded, and she calls it a tetramap.
Oh, okay, I got it. So four sides of a tetrahedron are the 4 elements.
Yeah,
Cool.
there you go.
All
So
right.
there's the tetrahedron.
Got it.
1, 2, 3, 4. Fire,
Mhm.
water, air, and earth.
Beautiful.
Okay, good. And then let's go back over here and let's pick it up where we left off.
long enough to listen and be prepared to listen. So Knowing that each of us is each element of nature, and I'm going to ask you to do this with me, okay? So like Earth, we solidify. This just helps us remember. Solidify.
Like try it with your hands.
Like this. Like air, we transform. Like water, we unify. And like fire, we energize. Like earth, we solidify. Like air, we transform. Like water, we unify. Like fire, we energize. Like water, we what?
Solidify.
Unify.
Unify.
Oh, water. I'm sorry. I started first. I
Like
didn't
air,
hear.
we what? Transform.
Transform.
Like earth, we what?
Solidify.
How's your solidify?
Solidify. This is sort of Simon Says. Okay, fire.
Now,
Fire.
Can you
Energize.
imagine her? Can you imagine her in a corporate environment with all these Fortune 500 people and all these employees in the company are going bomb, 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 and this, and she's get all these people to do this, and it's really profound because all of a sudden you'll see she relates it to human beings and then moves them into organizational structure.
Is she a corporate trader?
Is she what?
Is she a corporate trainer?
No, yes, these people are corporate trainers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's
You say by air that we do what? By air.
by air we transform.
Okay.
Fire, we energize.
Yeah. Solidify,
Solidify, unify, transform.
unify, transform,
energize.
and energize. Yeah.
Rises. Water unifies. Earth solidifies. Air transform. Earth what? Solidify. Air what? Transform. Water what? Unify. And fire what? Energize.
Energizes.
Right. Okay, because you're going to need to know that there's a test at the end, I think. Okay. So we linked all these earth, air, water, fire to principles that nature teaches us every day, and that Bucky dove into these principles and really gave it meaning and for us to understand what their significance. So diversity, interdependence, synergy that Peter did so well last week, and precession. Now, precession is a session all on its own, so we're not going to go into it, but that would be a fascinating session to cover, precession. So knowing that each of us is nature, I am nature, we are nature. How do you solidify? How do you, in your personal and work life, transform? How do you solidify, and how do you energize? Okay, so I'll do that again. How do you solidify? How do you transform? How do you unify? And how do you energize? And I'd like you to think which ones of those words, earth, solidify, air, transform, water, unify, and fire, energize, which ones of those verbs do you do so well, so naturally? Because the beauty of groups is that we all have our strengths and we all have our passions. So just in the chat, would you just write down which one of those? Do you solidify, transform, unify, or energize? And
The most.
The most.
Because inevitably you do all of them.
You do all of them. But which one comes most naturally and just really fires you up? That you know you're doing a great job and you're making the difference you want to make.
Shall we share about that?
Yeah. You want to share?
I'd like everybody to share, actually. I see that all of those are active, but I think for me, I'm probably the energize. And I'd like feedback on that too. How do you guys see me?
That'd be really interesting. We could do a whole thing where we evaluate it, volunteer to each other what we see and what roles we see them play in these phone calls and participating with each other. Anybody else want to say what they do?
Yes, I want to.
I'm going to cop right away to say earth, air, water, fire. I went straight to astrology because we're already there.
You went straight to where?
astrology.
Oh, yeah?
So when you look at astrology, the signs are grouped so that there's an equal number of signs that fit into each of those 4 categories. And they have some descriptive terms. So I will just say that I couldn't help. I saw that right away. So I'm going to go to solidify for me.
Okay.
I think I try and grab like 15 things and I go, where's the threads that come together? And here's my understanding and here's what I can go do with it. Best guess.
Manu,
for it.
go ahead.
Manu,
Can I go ahead?
please.
Of course.
Okay, I think that I have something here. I don't know if it's a breakthrough or something interesting. Look at this. Earth we solidify. That is the potter. That is anti-entropy. Earth we solidify. That is the potter. That is anti-entropy. Water we unify. Are you still with me? Water we unify is we flow to the line of least resistance. We flow to unify. We flow towards something. We converge. Air we transform. You see air transport. It's just like birds of the air transport seeds, or the bumblebee by blowing its wings. Then you have flower pollen that engender life somewhere. So that is, we spread the seeds, we transform into something else, from one source to the diversity of things. And then by precession is a process I think about like Fibonacci. You look at Fibonacci. Fibonacci says you inseminate, the golden ratio leads you to, it's derived from insemination, germination, gestation, and metabolic rhythm. And that is the critical mass, because the Fibonacci says that as you are going through that process paralleling out and out and out, at 65% of accumulation, between 60 and 65%, you have created you devolve an entirely new being that is life. That's why if a baby is born premature at 5 months, chances are that is not viable. But at 6 months, chances are overwhelming that the baby will be viable under certain conditions. He got no more nourishment from his mother. He can now feed from the outside, from the environment directly, as everybody does. Do you get what I say?
Yeah. I'd like to share something if you're done, Manu.
Yeah, I'm done, please.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Does anybody? Okay.
Back to this second slide. This is the pipe spiral. But if you look here, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right there are the 1 + 1 Fibonacci squares. 1
Right.
+ 1 = 2.
Right.
And this goes from corner to corner on those squares. Notice that.
Mhm.
And defines that spiral. Well, here
Mhm.
is insemination. 1 cell from the mother, 1 cell from the father. And there begins the spiral of life, I think, that Manu was talking about. Yes,
Said
Susan.
Insemination, germination,
Mhm.
it's number 3,
Gestation,
and then metabolic.
metabolic rate or rhythm.
So here is insemination. Here is germination. Here is
Gestation. as it's
Gestation.
going on.
And here is the metabolic that then begins to replicate that spiral.
The
Repeat.
metabolic will be when it evolves.
Yeah.
When the ratio of the area inside that spiral is 65% of the total, the last spin.
Okay. So when we saw that second image on Joe's chart, it is the spiral is technically do you say it pi or phi?
Phi,
The phi spiral,
PHI, yeah.
but it's based on Fibonacci squares. The Fibonacci squares reveal that spiral in all of nature. And it's what the woman on the video was saying, that this is nature's pattern. This is how everything comes about. This is how everything is formed. So very, very fascinating stuff. Yes, Manu.
Actually, I solved that thing and I share. I don't think Wayne was there, but Susan and probably Joe and Steve, they could remember it. Do you want me to share it?
You solved it?
Yep. But it's not me, just normally you go mathematical. I can show it if you want.
Sure.
Okay, let me open and share
And
my
the Fibonacci numbers are there. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. See the 8 by 8, 13 by 13? Those are the numbers.
Hey, Wayne, would you put in the chat that first name, before the spiral, what did you call that? Put it in the chat so I can get the spelling.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go to chat here.
That's a great image.
It's nice to have it in few enough dimensions that my tiny little smooth brain is like on it.
Can I boot you out? Wait.
Yes, please go ahead. I'll stop right now.
Okay.
You don't need to stop sharing to enable the other person to share. Anybody can share on top of anybody else, just for speed and efficiency.
Boot me anytime you want.
Okay, let me look at all right.
Oh, nice.
No, dividing multiply. Cool.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is really cool.
So the thing was, you start with solving for phi
Pi, PHI.
phi in equation phi squared equals phi plus 1. Right?
So that is the symbol for phi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then the solution is 1 plus square root of 5 divided by 2 equal 1618033. And that is the golden ratio.
Well, cool.
And that's the number for phi,
Define proportion.
1.6803.
But look at how I derive it.
Well,
If
look
you
how
take-
look who showed up with the explosive genius here. The guy who was going to be quiet in the corner. Yay, Manu.
No, this is all. So you see, this is the way you write the Fibonacci sequence. You know, if you have an index of integers to infinity if you want,
Mm-hmm.
the value index plus 1 equal the value index minus 1 plus the present value, with the initial value equal 1.
Are you talking about what's inside of the brackets there?
Yeah.
So what do
So
you
have the father initial value
show us with
is
your
1.
cursor? Use your cursor.
Okay,
please. Oh,
I
maybe
have my
I'm
cursor here. Do you see my cursor?
barely. Yeah, now I do. It's tiny.
It's a little white.
What does the F stand for? The value index?
Any function, yes, it's a Fibonacci. Fibonacci.
Oh,
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci. Okay.
It's a Fibonacci function.
1
Fibonacci
plus
was the
1.
mathematician. Generalized. So you have F. If you look at the sequence, the series, the Fibonacci is a series of numbers.
Right.
If you look at the number that is after, it is equal to the number that is before,
Right.
plus the number present.
Right. Yeah.
With initially 2 parents. The
Right.
mother, F0, and the father, F1.
Mhm.
Mother.
I have a Mark II, Wayne, and it's very thicker. Okay. Now let's write that. We know that F0 is 1 and F1 is 1. Then you write that you see the series, right? You can write according to that formula.
Yes, of course, which I've done.
Okay. So the series, and then if you take now the ratio of what follows divided by what is now, That is it here. You see that it's going to converge to the golden ratio. And you have here. I say the golden ratio is uniquely capable of generating a special kind of symmetry called dynamic symmetry. There are two ways to create harmonic balance within an object or space. One is to divide it into equal parts, creating a symmetry of balance characterizing the growth of crystals. The second one is based on the golden ratio section, creates the perfect form of asymmetry. It is an asymmetry. It's dynamic.
That is the phi spiral.
Yes, because the ratio of the lesser part to the greater part is the same as the ratio of the greater part to the whole.
Oh, Manu, this is blowing my mind.
This is amazing.
This is dynamic symmetry. Dynamic symmetry characterizes the growth of all living matter. And then I go to what you call critical mass.
Hold on, before you go to critical mass, do you know what you just expressed? For years, Kelly and I have been debating this balance thing. And I've shared that this girl named Onyx, around Rich Dad said balance is bullshit because there is no such thing. There's balance right there. There's invisible balance. That's natural all the time balance.
And yet what it's showing you is you need asymmetry to have progress.
Yes.
And that's a
spiral.
And that is exactly what the authors were talking about the entire time. It's essentially even within all your relationships and how you interact with one another, that there has to be a balance.
That spiral that we're looking at, flat page 2D.
Static, and it will not be equal.
That's right.
What do you guys think about this? The spiral that we're looking at in flat page 2D really is spiraling up, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, can I continue?
And
yes,
down.
please.
Okay, so you see that the notion of critical mass is that every living system is complex, dynamic, and adaptive, interacting with other living systems with effect that visibly or not, detectably or not, accumulate to reach critical mass, at which stage the lesser part spins off from the greater to become something else. That is precision.
Manu, you are blowing my mind.
Okay.
Susan, this is like level 2 cosmometry. He's expressing something that even they didn't express. Is this your original work?
Yes.
You need to publish this.
Yeah, you need to.
This needs to be published.
But this is a better.
So I want to put it, I have many notions that I want to put mathematically, the way that is understood. Leverage and thing, I'm working on it, is very difficult.
Well,
but this was critical mass, because so many people talk about critical mass, and from experience is above 60% of accumulation. Even in our voting system, all these things. If you really want to have a clean mandate, you need about 60% of a vote.
And actually, critical mass is.
Can we stop there just a second? You're going too fast.
Joe wants to say something.
Yeah, I mean, no, critical mass is something that actually adding it to this model would actually be extremely powerful, because they start with context and what their goal, but they don't necessarily, they create a loop, but they don't necessarily incorporate, as far as I know, critical mass into their model as of now.
The only reason why, Joe, is because they said they could talk about precession, but they weren't going to talk about it today because it was too complicated, and Manu has jumped into precession.
Are you talking about the video, Joe, or are you talking about the material you shared, or is it the same thing?
The same thing.
Same thing.
So what you started out sharing is this couple's work.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I didn't get that. Let's talk about this critical mass for a minute.
Okay, now you remember the golden ratio, what was it? The convergence. 1.62. 1.62. Right?
Critical mass, 1 plus critical mass.
Yes. Now, if you are at the 1.62, and then you take out the unit, you left
With
with
6'2".
yeah, the 6'2". You take out the mother, out of a womb, and then you left with a baby who is 6'2".
So 6'2" is viable.
Yes.
But remember the
Now,
one.
divide 6 by 9.
Yep.
And you tell me what it is.
1.62 is an abbreviation because that's an irrational number, just like pi, that goes out forever.
What's great is an irrational number is just a freaking relationship.
Hold on,
Okay.
hold on, Steve. Manu, help with this. Go scroll back up to the 1.62, please. 1.618 something.
Yeah. And it
Does-
goes
Yeah,
up.
that is that number.
Let's test
It's
that.
an
Does that-
irrational number, as Steve says.
Oh, because of the 3 on the end. Okay, I got it.
Because of square root of 5. Square root of 5 is never finite. It is
It's just
infinite.
like pi, Wayne, you'll never get to the end of it. It's just a relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
got it.
Okay. So you see now, if you divide 6 months, I don't know what it is exactly, Susan, but in terms of beings, they say if a baby is born at 6 months, you put him in
Incubator.
an incubator, and the baby, there won't be any problem, and there won't be serious consequences. As a matter of fact, there can be improvement.
Okay, so let's talk about voting for a minute.
Mhm.
In a democratic society, we always think of 51% as the win. But
No.
as I look at American politics right now, all of this, I'll just use the raw words, anger, hatred, venom on each side of the aisle and down the middle of the electorate. We're battling over 1 or 2 percentage points, but the truth is we don't have a mandate or a real victory until we hit 62.
Correct.
Yes.
Nothing will change.
There's no
Let's
critical
look at
mass. So we're going
Let's
to
look
jerk
at it. When you win, wherever you are, there are those who carry you today. Those who
Right,
carry you
right,
with interest, that
right.
accompany the other forces.
Yeah,
Now,
But-
once you are in office, it doesn't take long for them to start asserting why they supported you being there. And the popular will be discontented. So the cost of those other guys that supported you, it might be 5%, it might be 10%. But if you won by 50%, very quickly you become a minority, because if
yes,
5% are discontented and they change,
yeah.
Right. Right.
they swing the vote, they swing the real popular vote.
And how different would it be if that politician realized that anything less than 62 really isn't a victory? They're still campaigning through
Yeah,
their actions.
because as 62 is safe, I guess that Mother Nature also for baby is equipped the baby with the operating system and is giving him or her enough fat.
6 divided by 9.
Yes, enough fat to be out of the womb of a mom.
Right. How fascinating. Manu, remember the challenge you gave me when I was leaving?
Yeah,
Right,
I've
3
got one.
bucks.
I've got one for you.
that is.
2, actually. Number 1, as soon as possible, could you please put this in typewritten form, colors and all? You know, you can cut and paste the diagram of the Fibonacci squares and things, the numbers from the top. That's easy. You've got everything else. If you could get that to us like ASAP, I would appreciate it. And then, my friend, back at you. Write a book. I'm challenging you to write a book.
I'm trying. It's not easy because I'm
Tell
trying
me.
to take complex thing that we discuss here, like leverage. I've always said leverage is an extreme form of borrowing, for borrowing anything,
I know
or
it's not
riding
easy.
on the shoulder of giant. How do you
I-
express it mathematically?
I
think
know
I
it's
did
not-
something. I did something on it.
Manu, I know
remember.
it's not easy. I understand it's not easy. I've written 3 or 4 now.
Mhm.
But
No, I'm doing. I'm.
we talk about your gift to the world. We talk about the thing you could have the most impact with. I've never seen anything so clearly express the invisible as what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, it
This is-
doesn't have to be long.
Yeah, it doesn't. It could be a pamphlet. It could be.
No, that is it. That is it. That is it. I shared this paper with Susan and Steve. They
Yeah,
should
but
have
I
copies.
never got it quite as well as I'm getting it today. And that's because I'm getting in the river at a different point.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that was the time when especially some guys were hitting at me. You remember when I was doing the geometry?
Yeah, I think this was, Kelly was involved.
Yeah.
And
So there were guys who
Oh.
didn't, they say this is just theory. You know, I should get away with this.
No, no.
That wasn't
And
Fred.
there was somebody spending time saying that I want to reinvent the wheel.
Was that Fred?
No, Fred was not over there. He's
Okay.
The guy from New Zealand.
Henry?
Yes, Henry.
Okay. Oh,
Every-
that doesn't sound
Yeah.
like anything Henry would say.
I think that one day, I think that one day I told him my mind. Susan, you remember that?
Gave him a piece of your
So
mind?
my
Yeah,
recollection.
one day, you know, because he was just keep on, you know, he was a specialist. I would come, he doesn't realize that was when I was cutting all of these things and building paper models.
Yeah.
I would come here and share,
But
and then talk. In the end, you just say, you reinvented the way, and Kelly seemed to support him. That was the impression that I had. And it
So-
wasn't, I didn't find that it was fair. It was discouraging a little bit. So I stopped sharing on those things.
different critical mass. There are times, and I exemplify this in my own life. There's times when our resistance shows up differently, and Henry didn't want to think in geometry anymore. And if I'm tracking correctly, there's been times when, depending on a mix of who's in the call, different levels of geometry have been acceptable.
Mhm.
And it's funny, you know, you go to talk to people about, well, how was your morning? What did you guys talk about? And you see people's eyes glaze over at the word geometry, and all understanding, all interest stops. And it's like, no, this is profound. But lots of people aren't willing to let geometry be profound. And you know what? Because of the way I'm wired, it's not just geometry. To me, it's relationship. And honestly, in today's society, I can get more traction with the words relationship.
And that's what actually the authors really focus on as well. I mean, that they focus on relationships and also this idea of being self-aware within that process.
But the beautiful thing is that when we go to the geometry of thinking, which is how I explain my fascination with Bucky, it's all about relationship.
Yes. Yeah, all the way, every single piece.
But in
Look-
geometry is just relationship, but you got to know your audience and you got to pick the words that they understand. So Manu, this is beautiful, whether it's a white paper or a book at some point, guys. And I know that I'm so not good at overcoming the resistance of my own damn life, but maybe what we have is a combined artifact that comes out as a book, with different people taking different segments and putting the white papers together. Because, you know, a book is a major undertaking, and there is no book that I could write that I would not be like every single, like 2 paragraphs, I'd be annotating source here, source there, source there. I don't know that I have any singular original idea. There are no new stories in this universe. They are all special case amplifications of the principles that are already there in nature. We're all just discovering what's already there. And every single thing about me in my mind has been influenced over the years by you lovely, lovely souls. There's nothing I could write where I wouldn't have to go, dear heavens, most of the stuff in here came from other people.
That's the opening paragraph of my real estate book, Susan. You know, but someone has to bring it all together to make application. Manu, this is
great.
This is amazing.
You
And-
know,
and
for
you,
yeah.
you say this is
In cosmic accounting, you just did 2 things. You need the first order derivation that gives you tetrahedra, and the second order that gives you of the octahedron. The first order derivation gives you tetrahedra and an implied octahedron. And you can divide that octahedron according to 3 planes that intersect to make, and then you have there your 12. because you have 4, and then you can divide them into 3 ways again. It's 4 times 3 is 12. So
Manu,
each hemisphere, yes.
that's where you're going to lose people, though. And this,
Oh, no, it's
no,
okay.
no,
I
hold
was-
on. Hear me out. Hear me out. And not us, but what you said is what Susan, I think, was saying about geometry. It's not palatable to the average person out there, I don't believe. But Kelly had that same challenge. Hear me out, Susan, please. I spent 10 years on these calls, kind of bumping my head against the wall and trying to understand the most basic things about Bucky that were coming out of all of your mouths. And then in 2015, in the middle of that train wreck with the government, Kelly and Anna stepped up big time, and I felt like I wanted to do something for them. And so I started editing Kelly's Struggle Dork stuff, you know, and doing some editing work on that before he published his little weekly Struggle Dork papers. And in doing that, I got deeply into the mind of that man and realized that there was this barrier between his language and what the reader was probably getting out of it. And in discussing it with him, we agreed that I would see if I could bridge that barrier, if I could bring my writing skills to bear and repackage that information in a way that the people that he was trying to speak to could understand what the heck he was saying about Bucky. Much of the application that you guys are seeing of my work right now isn't, as Susan is saying, just my work. It really, the gestation of that was there. Kelly and I, one-on-one, working in the gestation and then spiraling out to become something new, something different, something bigger. And you all have contributed to that. So I think what I'm saying, Manu, is that every time you speak, there is this profound something coming out of your mouth that is many times beyond me, because I don't have your math background. But I think the world deserves to understand what you're saying. Like you said, you put this in simple language. I got it today because of what the work that you did here. If you could take each one of those concepts and do that, and then with each of these paragraphs, you said, this is all there is. You know, you can't make a book out of this. This is all there is. It's one page. Yeah, but each one of those sentences could be a paragraph or a chapter with all kinds of support, rich support material and images and things that could really drive the points home. I say that by way of encouragement, okay?
Thank you. Well, you see here, for example, after I have things written here. I start with saying, let me just take here. Say, where did I get that? I've been trying, you know, to define what you call dimension and degree of freedom. And all of this, really to put them in a way that makes sense. I say, for example, principle 1 to me is the foundational general principle of plurality of unity. That's what Bucky says. Principle 1. The foundational general principle of plurality. And then I take it like this, you see? And then I develop it, borrowing heavily from Bucky.
I can't see that at all, Manu.
Yeah, but just see the print.
Oh, you're just saying this is the work product.
Yes.
Okay.
And I come to an equation that can show me that gravity is twice locally stronger than radiation. But radiation always prevails in the long run.
Okay.
Well,
Look at that.
What about the reverse square principle? You're saying it's twice as strong, isn't it? Isn't it?
It's twice, yes.
Square?
But you have, in order to demonstrate that, you have to take the log of I say log of me is log of 1, is log of G plus 2 log of radiation, log of gravity plus 2 log of radiation. Because opposite, I mean, is Bucky says it does me, I'm a unit.
Are you saying local?
Yes,
Is that the word you're using?
yes, locally.
Okay.
It's
I
Manu.
say me, I'm 1.
Is local.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
me is a convolution of gravity and radiation. Is tensegrity.
Mhm.
And radiation is square. Gravitationally is going to a point, is linear.
Okay, you just said 10 things. Sorry to interrupt you again. You just said 10 things. My brain is grabbing at the language. I'm not keeping up. but I know it's there and I know it's beautiful. I know it's wonderful. I just want to crawl inside your head and understand what you're seeing.
Okay, I say me, I'm unity.
I'm not asking you to clarify right now. I'm saying this
Me,
needs
I'm
more-
unity in the universe.
I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I get that, I get
So
that
if
part.
me, I'm a unity in the universe that is always evolving, it means I'm a tensegrity of universe.
And the universe deserves to have Manu
Okay.
tell us what the
That-
heck that means.
That tensegrity is a conjunction of two things. Gravity that compresses towards the local point, and radiation that tend to expand and relate with the environment, with all the planet, with all the stars around it. Now, when I say that, and you can see that if gravity is pointing to a point like this, it is linear. You cannot be pointing to a point and be doing this. You are linear.
Right.
So the gravity is G in the formulation. But radiation, because there's an angle opening, and if I take Steve's formula of the square of the surface in every spherical expansion, you remember that, Steve? You called it the law of square something.
It's reverse square. It's the Einstein.
Yeah, the reverse square, right?
Right.
So I can see that now radiation goes into that radius square, because that area that you're talking about is PR square. You remember that? Pi I square.
So you know what's
As-
beautiful?
The formula for the surface of an arc is pi, or is proportional to pi times the radius square. That's it.
Mhm.
You see now?
4
S.
pi r squared. This
Yes.
is the Denver square law that explains radiation and gravity.
Okay. Now, if I take now is an equation,
that in
I
the
say
chat?
me is 1. If me is 1, it means that the logarithm of me is 0, because the logarithm of 1 is 0. So, logarithm, whatever the base of unity, is 0, always. Whether you talk about the Neperian logarithm or the decimal logarithm, it is 0 when you talk to 1.
Is that what she meant by binary?
Yep.
No, it's not there.
No,
It is
1 and 0, you good.
It is, I'm changing scale to reflect that my relationship as spherical. And in order to be
Okay.
able to add things, when something is spherical, you have to go to the logarithm reference. Either you do exponential or you do logarithm. In Fibonacci is exponential. But in most of the thing, you do logarithm. Now, if the logarithm, if me equal 1 and equal gravity times radiation square, it follows that the logarithm of me equal logarithm of 1, that is 0, right? That is the essence of me. It is a 0 of a bow tie, and then equal logarithm of gravity plus 2 logarithm of radiation. Does it make sense? Because when you take logarithm of something square, you take the exponent out, it becomes a multiplier.
Ah, okay. Yeah, forgot.
Susan, you know that?
I do. So here's something super fun, guys, because
Yeah, that's what the logarithm scale is. You go from 1 to 10, from 0 to 1, then 1 to 10. The 10 thing is very small. And then the 100 is even smaller. That's the way the logarithm is. So
Okay.
if logarithm of G plus 2 logarithm of R equals 0, me, logarithm of me, it goes that logarithm of G equal minus 2 logarithm of R. Or inversely, if I want to take the convention that radiation is positive, it means that logarithm of radiation, 2 logarithm of radiation, is minus logarithm of gravity.
Well, again, that,
CQFD.
that all sounds very profound, but you lost me.
Okay.
No,
Way back there.
CQFD.
So Manu, just for
Yes.
this group, you're gonna have to hand us a sheet of equations so we can follow. But
Yes.
because, please understand, I love you so much. Here's a fun 40,000-year-old way to deal with this, or 4,000-year-old. So while all facts are true, not all truths are facts. In the Hindu religion, this is a story, and it has two characters. One is Shiva, the male energy, and this guy is stone cold freaking handsome. He lays there with his hair that's all these beautiful snakes, and he locks eyes, and just his stillness is everything. It is delicious, masculine, attractive. Shiva, who is his mate, is the female, and she gyrates in spirals all around. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong. Both are essential, and it is that delicious moment of creation when you've got gravity, and radiation coming together, and you have creation. And there's stories, there's way to bring these into a different moment and a different way to understand it. But that was 4,000 years ago when they didn't have logarithms. The Hindu religion put it into story form.
Well, and it's what Steve was saying about his book. You know, the feedback he got from the two people that he shared his initial manuscript or a section of it with, that it was too complex. And I loved when he said, I'm writing it for my grandchildren to understand. That's the level we have to get on. And the stories are the key. Putting it in story form taps into tradition.
Use equations, because the most beautiful poetry in the world is an equation.
Is math, yeah, absolutely.
And you know how to put the 44th minute, right? The 42nd minute.
The what?
42nd minute.
42nd minute?
Yes. You know the story, right?
I've never heard it.
Okay, the story is this one. If you have the Yankee stadium in New York, the average big stadium where you have him, and then you have a drop of water per second, and every time that drop of water, it doubles. Every time that it comes second time it doubles. How long does it take for the stadium to be completely submerged?
Full of water.
I don't know.
Yes. And the answer is very precise. It's 44 minutes.
Oh, if one drop of water falls in the first second to the second, yeah, that would get
And then
exponential
4,
very
and
quickly.
then 8, and
It's
then
44 minutes.
basic compounding.
Yeah.
Yes. And most people, why do we have problem in life? That most people are at the 44th minute, 43rd minute, 42nd, which the glass is still half full.
Yeah, it doesn't happen
And they
till
don't
the very,
realize
very
it.
end. Right.
Yes. So let's just say life is a play. That is time that has rule. And you waste time doing some other stuff, and you think you have time. By
That's
the
right.
time you realize how deep those bad things that you'll be doing have been ingrained in you, it is already the 40th minute out of 45 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have to uproot, because you have to put, it's an onion. You have to pull out all the skins that accumulated over time and rebuild anew. Most of the time, people are discouraged. That's it. If people with the processes that are spherical in life realize that if they don't come right into understanding what is going on, into choosing the people that they associate with, into wasting less time and doing what God put them to do, well, what happens is that for most of the people, whatever what you do is going to be too late. And that's why Bucky says he's not going to advocate that people waste their time with adults. we read that thing. It said critical. Was it critical? No, not critical path. It was oblivion. He said by 12 years, you have to have done everything.
Right.
To place the young pin on orbit by 12. He has to be learning to orbit around things himself. And later in life, he just learns about jumping, like in quantum physics. So releasing energy to jump, right? Or acquiring energy to go towards the center. And those are the things that you do in life. But there is critical time of learning, of your experiences. And what the education systems in the world have been doing basically is to bamboozle young people. Millions and millions of young people are bamboozled.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time they are 15, they don't know. I mean, they are just going to be, I'm sorry to say, mediocre. You know, when it doesn't give you 1/10 of the education that you had on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that
Never.
conversation
That's
with
true.
my,
And the
Mhm.
wisdom that you take, that you express, or you or Kelly or Steve, from that experience, you find it nowhere.
and yet it's still,
And you ask the question, they say you don't have a degree. They say, who are you to talk? You don't have a degree.
Mhm.
Because that's
still-
sanitized everything.
and that doesn't mean that that experience was devoid of value. I had this conversation with my 19-year-old son yesterday. He was saying, Dad, I know I'm never going to use any math that I learned in school. And I said, well, I suspect you will, because I use it every day. And I said, you know, it isn't that the way they educate us nowadays in the system, Preston, is the most wonderful approach to education. I understand it has its shortcomings. He said, well, they're just teaching us to be robots. I said, well, maybe so, but you still have that knowledge, and then you can step out of robot mold and do whatever you want with it. So I value my high school education, and much of what I learned there, and it has served me well. But I hear you loud and clear. It surely isn't preparation for this conversation.
Learned on the farm sure is, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ranch.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's very much like precession. It's happening at 90 degrees. You can put school out as the thing that you're driving for, and
Right.
everything that's all the goodness is coming out at 90 degrees.
Yeah. And
I do trust that it's going to be good in the end. I really do. I'm still
yeah.
utopia.
Well, I am too. And, you know, and I don't think it's naivete or wishful thinking. I look back and we have always overcome. Why wouldn't we this time, especially given the tools that we have? That was what drove Fred off the call. We made him insane by insisting that it wasn't hopeless. What do you have there?
There's Shiva. I'm sorry, Shakti. Double.
You're muted.
Sorry.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Hey, Manu, you're muted, dude.
So are you seeing it? And how do I put myself on the screen like you? I have to pin myself, right?
You
No,
can't
you just
pin
go to
yourself,
speaker
everybody
view.
else. You can't pin yourself. I can't pin you. You've got to, everybody watching has to pin.
Okay. So if you see this,
Let's pause. Does everybody know how to pin him so that you can only see him on the screen or see him
Yeah.
enlarged?
Yep.
You
Yes.
mouse over his picture, and in the upper right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. That menu drops down and it says pin, and blam, he'll be big time.
Thank you. You're big now.
where are the 3 screen? The 3 I'm seeing on view here. Where
Up
is
in
it?
the corner of each picture. So if you click in the corner of my picture, up in the
Yeah.
right-hand corner, you'll see 3 dots. Click on that, it'll say pin. If you hit pin, I will
No,
be
I
the
don't
only
have
image on
print.
your
I have
screen.
speaker, gallery, hide self view.
No, you're
I
at the
don't
top corner. You're at the
No,
top
in
corner.
inside
Go
of the
to-
video image.
Right here, right in your upper right-hand corner, Manu.
Here.
You can also go to speaker view and
Okay. No, fine. Good.
Okay.
Do you see this?
Yes.
This is a double torus. Do you see the blue and the red?
Yes,
Yes.
This is a 90 degrees. Yeah.
right.
It's nothing that is plain. It is one circle coming this, another circle coming like a cosine.
That
against
crosses
it.
at 90 degrees, right?
Yes, and then you have a 90 degrees.
They intersect at 90.
That's it. And it's still, so whenever you're talking about precession, you're talking about the double torus. Whenever. And precession is just the process of it happening. And that's how Bucky always goes about explaining it. You remember? It takes the hammer thrower or this thrower. And what they do first, they go up with circular momentum. They go up when they reach the appropriate level and the appropriate angle vis-a-vis the objective, they release it.
One of them goes up, the other one's going down.
Linearly towards the objective. That's the way I explain it, because otherwise it's very difficult to explain. Because precession is always happening. So we live in it, we cannot feel it, we cannot explain it. Right? It's like the notion of linearity of gravity. When somebody says gravity is linear, in our 2D or 3D dimension that we have, we cannot understand.
That's how we
Gravity is
experience, but
linear
it isn't.
because, yes, because it's going towards the point in all directions.
Yeah. But in the bigger view, it's an arc. And in
No,
fact,
that's
it's-
radiation. Radiation is an arc. Radiation is doing this.
So
Going out.
are you saying then that gravity is linear?
Yeah, gravity is blue, radiation is red here.
Okay, so
And
Gravity is blue.
so gravity is coming out like this, going in like that, and radiation is coming out like that and going in like that.
okay, but if gravity's coming in and going out and around and back in, how is that linear?
Good.
No, I'm saying the experience when we want to explain things, gravity with regard to radiation, the two interacting.
That's what I was trying to
Yes,
clarify.
gravity is the
So
line.
our experience of it is linear, but is it linear actually? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you take the tetrahedron.
Yeah.
Take the tetrahedron, and you take any vertex of a tetrahedron. How many relationship goes there?
2.
3.
Oh, 3, excuse me. Yes, 3.
And each relationship is a line, isn't it? Each one.
Yes, part of a
Yeah,
line anyway.
It's depicted as a line,
Right.
Mhm.
but it's actually an axis of energy, but it's depicted as a line.
Yeah, that's it. It's a line of least resistance of a
If
flow of energy to a vertex.
If you take Manu's diagram and you see that center line in that flower, the
In a
butterfly,
straight line.
that center appears as a straight line metaphorically, but it's actually the axis upon which all of that energy is spinning.
Yeah, it intersects at that axis.
Now let me tell you why it is a
It
straight
interrelates at
line.
that axis.
Let me tell you why
That's
it's a line.
interesting.
You know, we are at the middle of that, where the tetrahedron is, where the octahedron is. You see that? You see the square. There's another square like this to make the octahedron
Yes.
in the middle,
Yes.
at the junction of the two here.
This could be called a chakra.
Okay, so that's where we are. So when this energy gets very close to us, all those lines are packed like this. It looks like linear. So that's why the notion of linearity is always local. There is no linearity away from the center.
Okay. So maybe I don't have my answer yet. Are you saying that even gravity is not linear away from the center?
No,
It's inverse square.
yeah, it's not.
I have no idea what that means.
We only, okay, gravity field on Earth, on local Earth, in relationship to the sun, is 9.81 meter
Per
per
second.
second square.
Yeah,
It's constant. It's
I-
constant all over the Earth. Constant.
I wonder if you're hearing my question.
Yes, I heard your question. But
Well,
now, if you go to Mars, it's no more the same. It's the same gravity, but the field is different. The magnitude of it is very different.
What's cool about this chart, you guys, is this shows the inverse square law applied to several different paradigms. This is gravity. This is electrostatics. This is illumination. This is sound. This is radiation. The inverse square law applies to every one of those experiences.
Please post that, Steve, and I'll study it.
I gave it to you in the PDF. This is the PDF
So-
I gave to you.
So Manu, I'm gonna hit you
Well-
back on Wayne's question. You said that it's different on Mars versus Earth, but it's still linear on Mars. It's a different linear on Earth. Is that right?
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
It's local.
But that's
Because
not
local is the experience, is local experience.
But that's not what I'm tripping up on.
What are you tripping on?
I understand it might be different on Mars, Moon, Earth. You know, my friend Edgar Mitchell experienced it is different. Even time was different on the moon when he was there.
Because of
What-
gravity.
What I'm maybe so. What I'm tripping up on is you saying that it's not linear until it gets to the local center,
Yes,
the
and
intersection.
we are at the local
So
center
before,
always.
please hear me before you answer. Before it gets there, what is it?
No, it's curved.
Even gravity.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
The
so how
entire
is it
universe
always
is
linear?
curved.
So how
it's
is it
curved.
always?
Look at
This is
here.
relativity.
Hold on,
This is
hold on,
Einstein's relativity.
stop. Let me ask my question. Stop jumping on me. I'm trying to understand this. So it's
Can I
curved.
answer you? Can I answer you?
No, don't say anything
Okay,
until I
go on.
finish asking, please. If
Yeah.
it's curved, how is it linear?
No, I'm saying, look at this.
It's not
experience.
linear. It's perceived as linear at local, in a
I
local
think that's
proximity.
what I was saying. And that's what I was asking. So let me ask the question again with this new information on the table. So is gravity always linear outside of the local experience of it?
Away
So
for it,
it's-
yes, is curved. It's not always.
Okay, great. Now I understand.
Okay, let me explain it again for everybody to understand. We are always here. We only imagine ourselves here. We've never been here. It's just
Right.
the mind that is there.
Right,
Our physical experience is always here.
right.
So if you look at these lines, this one, for example, if you mark this one, it will go like that. It becomes curved. It goes
That's what I
around. That's
thought.
what Kelly calls around.
Right,
It comes. When it's now on the negative point in here, you
right.
can see it. That is coming tighten with the next one.
Yes.
So my experience here would be like, this is a highway.
Yeah, straight.
Okay.
Linear.
Whereas if I were here, I would see that this is not the highway, this is the neck. This is diverging, a lot of off ramps and highways crossing, going different places.
Right.
It's curved. That's the
Look-
experience.
And locally, we experience the world as flat, when in fact it
Yes.
isn't, based on Steve's double, what is it?
Yes.
Inverse square law. It's Newton. Newton invented the inverse square law.
All right. So.
So,
perfect.
so,
Hold that
so,
up
Thank you,
one more
thank you for your
time.
patience.
So we
Thank
should
you for the
know-
answer.
that everything that is physical is always local, relatively, always.
Yeah, and
And
that's
what
why
did
we
you-
experience it as physical, solid.
Everything that's
You'll-
physical.
Interestingly, an ant likely perceives as the ant moves around on a branch, they're actually moving in a straight line. That ant is moving in a straight line in his own brain. However, he experiences gravity as wind or as heat or something else because he can't comprehend gravity. The ant sees itself existing on a single plane in a two-dimensional reality.
And we're the ants.
And we're the ants in terms of how we experience 4D. We just don't see it. Just like an ant doesn't see 3D, an ant sees itself like a flatlander moving along on a plane and everything's twisting around, but it doesn't get it.
But do you realize, Wayne, that there wouldn't be life if anything were linear in reality?
Yeah, it would all pass itself and never
It
come
goes.
together.
It passes, it goes away.
Yeah,
That's why life is patterns. Is patterns, is repetition. The metabolic rate or rhythm of
Right.
vibration of frequencies that are brought together to coexist for a while. They are
Right.
vibrating, and that's what is called the physical, is local. So the experience of death is the experience of releasing yourself from that local gravity. And probably with consciousness, if you can be being free again.
You make
Well,
a statement like that, and then you say that you only have one page to share.
No, this is no more the same subject.
Yeah, I know. There's a
That's
book.
yeah,
It's a book. A rich book.
but it almost gets in.
We made it through about 2 minutes of the video.
I know. We never know where we're going.
And
do we?
listen, the next 28 minutes of that video is very, very, very good.
Oh, I can tell.
And we watch, how long do we
They're
have?
We only have
We don't
24
have
minutes.
time.
We have about 24 minutes left.
Yeah, we probably have to start to wrap.
Yeah,
Takes us that
especially with
long.
all the epiphanies that are occurring today.
Can you
What?
can you hold
Can
your
you
book up
send
one
us,
more
can
time?
you send us the video? We watch it. I'm
Manu.
curious, it's 1 hour.
Joe is asking you, Manu, to hold up your book one more time, please.
That page.
That page. That's all I needed to say.
Okay,
Got it.
move it a little bit to your right, a little smidge. No, you moved it back. Now move it up again.
There we
Down,
go.
down a little bit. Down a little bit. Up too far. All right, that's pretty good.
I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Apparently, if
Well-
we take mushrooms, we just get this all spontaneously.
I got it too, you guys, and so I will put it into a graphic and send it to you. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so it might be good to start wrapping up. Everybody take a lot of time and share their epiphanies. So, Joe, are you ready to share? Because you've seen the video, and so you can put some additional context to this. You want to share how you feeling and what's your takeaway, and pass it along.
This added to the video to me. I mean, some of the things that I think we ought to go through the video next week. Some of the things and even just some basic definitions that we didn't necessarily get to when we're talking about their model that I think were really important. Just even some of the basic definitions of how they talk about what really unifies things and what it means to have a diversity of experiences and the importance of what does it actually mean to solidify and simplify and transform. And all of this entire process that they were talking about, I've been able to relate to ephemeralization. Now, what Manu has given me is some of the mathematical aspects of this now to kind of close the loop. Specifically, you know, I'm guessing that if they talked about procession, they would probably have gotten to what it means to close the loop a little bit more.
Agreed.
But so I think that's one area, but there's a lot to take away from here, especially when you're talking about some of Manu's formulas, specifically the one page where it was we were talking about the golden ratio and critical mass. I'm going to have to look at that again to really understand how critical mass works with 60, getting to 62%. The political example was actually excellent as far as understanding that. So, and then at some point I'll get to the inverse general square law, or inverse square law. So I think that will be helpful as well. Yeah, I think that there's a lot here. And so I'm much more appreciative of last week's presentation. The final thing is also your process for dividing to multiply, Manu, is also starting to ring a little bit more true to me. I mean, I understood it to a certain degree, but this makes it much more practical. So having this model and combining what Manu's math and the TetraMeme and even in the TetraMap, this is very, very powerful. And Steve, some of the things you put in the chat have been this, including this gravity. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's the same one. So, all right. So, you know, those are some of my takeaways for this. Is ultimately I look at combining, and this is where we start to make connections against, you know, across different modes of thought. And there's also a way, some of the things that we talked about with topography and topology as well, that can be incorporated into this. But we didn't really get into the video deep enough to make that connection. But this is fun. This is going to be this will be a lot of work to go through during the week, but it'll be worthwhile. And so I'm grateful for the TetraMeme, and grateful for the TetraMath, and I'm grateful for the mathematics that Manu has put forward here today. I'm definitely gonna start with the golden ratio and critical mass as my starting point, because once I get that, I think I can start to understand the whole a little bit better. So anyway, that's kind of a long takeaway, and I was rambling for a little bit. So with that, Wayne, how do you feel? What are you taking away from today?
Well, I feel energized. I feel, I don't know, kind of like I'm on fire. I love this kind of thing when ideas, when thoughts, when facts and truth, as Susan said, grab my mind like that and shake it and say, hey, wake up, there's something here. I think I could study what we talked about this morning, the content of this call for the next year and still not have it all. And I will be putting some time into the study of this, because it brings together so many things that that I have worked around and wrestled with. There was tremendous clarity that flowed out of this. It was like standing in front of a fire hose, though, trying to take a sip. And Manu, you said when you started out, you were going to be in whisper mode today. Man, if this is whisper mode, let it rip. This is an amazing contribution. My big takeaway was balance equals symmetry based on critical mass at 1.62. And I instinctively knew there was balance somewhere in the universe, even though, you know, others said that there is no balance. There's only equilibrium. Now I understand what equilibrium is based on. And it's this beautiful dance of all of this energy that in the spiraling it is counterbalancing other things that are going on. And I don't know that language is even sufficient, but what an amazing image I have of that. As far as your challenge, write the book, Manu, I feel very strongly about it. You use the word convolution. I've heard about things being convoluted, and that's one definition of convolution is let me just, I looked it up here. Let me share this. So a coil or twist, especially one of many, crosses adorned with elaborate convolutions. So, you know, we'll talk about something that's kind of messed up and call it convoluted. That's the definition I'd always heard, but there's another definition: a thing that is complex and difficult to follow. Okay, your life work here, my friend, is complex and difficult for the average person to follow, especially if I'm the average person. And yet, being where I am after 15 years on this call, I see extreme value in the world having that information, having the insights that you have, having the expressions in math made simple and understandable through stories or whatever. There's a lot of work to do here, but you know, the golden ratio, leverage, gravity versus radiation, local, what did you call it? Localism, precession, the double torus. I mean, each of those is a chapter, and we're just getting started. But if you could attach real life examples and stories to that stuff, and awaken people to how it's going, you'd have a book much like cosmometry, only probably more applicable to the average person. It's something that they could teach in more advanced schools. I don't mean advanced like in age, I mean to elementary kids who are in schools that think differently than the educational system. So I'm very sincere in my challenge. I see this can be done. I can't do it, Manu. I don't have your background. I don't have your brain trained the way yours is. And I don't know how you feel about it, but as your friend, I am urgently asking you and challenging you to do whatever you have to do to get this stuff out there. This can be your application. This could be your big gift to the world. Because today, I saw the invisible in ways I've never seen it before and applied practically from so many different angles. Wow, how did you do that? Please keep doing it. And thanks to all the rest of you for your contributions too. I feel tremendous gratitude. I feel blessed to be on this call. Susan, how are you feeling? What's your takeaway?
Feeling like it was a great investment of time this morning to be with you all. And thank you, Steve and Joe, for a starting point. Thank you, Manu, for exposition. I really love taking the strands of things that we've been working with and solidifying them. And yep, that's kind of my happy space. And I love translating. So Manu, to the point that I can never help you with translating. That's kind of what I do all day long for people with regards to
Yes.
medical and life stuff. I do love, Wayne, you're talking about that idea of balance, and balance is just a split second of equilibrium. It's not a constant. it's not possible as a constant sort of a thing. So I love, and I got to tell you, starting with that central triangle of potential and context, I think that was the very first place that Robert Kiyosaki grabbed my attention, was really making that distinction between context and content. And if we want to apply this, we have to be able to find a context that other people are interested in coming to join us on a content. But I'm interested right where we are. So I am incredibly happy. Tom, how do you feel and what are you taking away?
It's a good thing that I take notes. So it would be good that I reorder these things so the order may be a little bit off. So I'm extraordinarily grateful for expanding so much my understanding on so many levels. So Wayne said I've been on the call for 15 years and I've been on the call less than 15 weeks. Somebody said in there, I think the math is beyond me. And then Susan talked about how geometry is about relationships. And I've certainly understood relationships almost all of my life. Right, Wayne in there said, Manu, I'm having a hard time keeping up. It also said, we've always overcome, and that's one of my major principles in my understanding. And I keep going back to utopia or oblivion, that because, and in that video, it mentioned how Bucky was always using nature's principles. And Joe mentioned he looks at nature for solutions. And that's always been my most underlying belief, is that nature is just incredibly balanced. And so, and that I am part of nature. I mean, we all are nature, and that everything happening is. And Susan talking about a balance is perceived, but every second is equilibrium. I didn't write exactly what you said, Susan. My biggest takeaways in not understanding all this math and Steve's charts. My biggest takeaways somewhere down on Earth is certainly the 51%, 62%. I've mentioned before, I was in politics for about 30 years, and 51-49 is civil war. And that
Yeah.
if we were at 62%, and also Manu had talked about how the education system has been bamboozling for decades. And that was a big part of what I took from reading Bucky, is that you can't alter human nature, that ephemeralization and humanity being able to do more with less as every decade moves along is our only hope. So thank you all for vastly expanding my perception of the physical and the emotional and the mental world and the spiritual world. And I'll pass it over to Steve.
Okay.
How are you feeling, and what were your takeaways?
Did Manu
What?
share?
Did Manu share?
No, I can go. I can share.
Please.
Okay.
Was Steve always last?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's-
The host is last.
The host usually goes last.
Okay.
Okay, I'm really grateful and thankful, and really this uplifts me. Yesterday I was in doldrums, but today is a lot better. But let's see this. Let me share again something that can be easy. Do you see this one?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like our values chart.
No, yes, it's a two tetrahedron that are interacting.
It
Or
doesn't it?
yeah,
The thinkable set. It looks like Steve's thinkable set,
yeah,
right?
ABC. And then you map all the relationship.
Mhm.
And then you can see the blue,
So a
the
nice,
green, and the red. And this red here is the axis of spinning of a structure. It's a nice representation that even kids can go ahead as long as you tell them, but when you arrive at this is the way it is. In that if you take the stuff and you spin it, you can show it that it's spinning on an axis. And then the blue is night, the green is day. Day, night, spinning.
Like the
So
planet.
you have the relationship here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relationship of the covert tetrahedron. 1, 2, 3, 6 relationship of the overt tetrahedron. That is, those are two phases. And then you have on this axis everything in relationship to itself. A, B, B, C, C, D, D is the axis of spin. It doesn't change. All right. So that's another way of representing things that can be easily understandable. And explaining, I use this to explain spinning in the 6 degrees of freedom. So thank you, Wayne. Yes, I'm on. And I'll try my best. The problem with me, I've always been blocking time to do these things. But if you encourage me enough, I'll do.
I have a thought. Maybe we could take one idea and you do the initial work, and then all of us work with you, kind of like we did on my manuscript, and see what we can stir up of it.
Yes.
Add stories and things, see how you feel about it.
Yes, you can do that.
Manu, do not take Wayne's example. Do not have some outside force give you all the time you need.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be you know, I will tell you what I think. Maybe it's rubbish, but we do. Okay, Steve, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I'm feeling really good. I'm just so convinced the rest of that, the next 28 minutes of that presentation is going to be really good. So we'll do that for next week. I've had, I got all excited about this idea of compounding versus Fibonacci. And I'd never done this before, but here's my little chart that I came up with while we were visiting.
Yeah.
And basically what I did was I compared compounding, which is a factor of 2, to phi or Fibonacci, which is a factor of 1.618033. And when we say 62%, it drives me crazy because it's not 62, it's 618033, irrational, right? So I took like 6 or 8 digits there, and here's the difference between compounding and Fibonacci after 41 days. And if we take it down one more day so that we fill that stadium, Manu, there's the 42nd day factor. So I did the math on that, and I just thought that was kind of interesting.
You say 42 or 44, Manu?
How many days to fill this?
It's about 47 minutes. It's around there, 45. I have a demonstration somewhere. But
how many
Steve,
days?
let me ask you a question.
How many days is it, Manu? 42
I
or
said
45?
No, hours, minutes.
How many minutes is it? 42 or 45?
About 45. Let me, okay, if you want me, because you are poking me here.
Okay. Well, I got
need to find
45
it
then.
somewhere.
Round
I
about
had
45.
demonstrated that stuff.
Okay.
Here. It is 44 minutes.
Okay, 44 minutes. All right, so
This
I'm
is a
taking
demo.
this off then.
That's it.
Okay, that fills the stadium.
Yes.
Interesting.
But my comment, sorry to interrupt, is that at the 43rd minute, the stadium is 56% of capacity.
56%? Yeah, that's
Of
that's
capacity. Yeah.
Right there, the bottom 2 numbers on the left column, 438 versus 8. So 438 billion versus 8.
At 43rd, yes,
trillion.
it's only 50% of capacity. 50.
Right.
61.8. It's Fibonacci.
Yeah.
It's the Fibonacci.
But look at the 43, Steve. Make
What?
the ratio at 43. At 43 minutes.
Oh, at 43
That's on
minutes?
top. Yes.
Should be the same. It should be the same
Okay.
because it's Fibonacci all the way down. So if we go backwards, it'll be Fibonacci.
Yeah, you programmed it that way up top.
Yeah.
The example of the stadium is compounding.
It's not compounding, it's Fibonacci. It's a 1 instead of 2.0 times the previous number, it's 1.6 18033, etc. Right?
Well, but yeah, on the right column, but his example of the stadium was compounding because he used 1 that became 2 that became 4 that became 8. So that is a doubling.
And Steve, let me ask you a question.
Well, what I did was I compared the compounding to the
Yes,
Fibonacci.
yes,
You're right.
Yeah. Steve, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Where did the difference between the 8 billion and the 969 million go to?
Well, wait a minute. This isn't 8 billion.
That's 8 trillion.
It's not 8 trillion. It's 8,000 trillion.
That's what.
Oh, use no
1, 2,
decimals.
no,
there, okay.
I count the
Yeah.
3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. 1,
There's 12.
2,
There's
3.
12 decimal.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is 8. That's 8 trillion. So where did the difference
No,
between
it
8
isn't.
trillion
There's
and
million.
969?
Manu,
Yes.
Manu. The first 3 digits are 1,000. The next 3 digits are million. The next 3 digits are billion. The next 3
No,
digits
no, no, no.
trillion.
The next 3 digits, the second 3 digits are 100,000. Then a million.
Okay, good. I dropped one.
Then a
Okay.
billion.
Thank you for correcting me there. That's good.
It's 8 trillion, 8.79 trillion. That's what I see there.
Yeah, 8 trillion.
And the other one is merely 1 million, 1 billion.
1 billion.
So where did the difference between 8 trillion and 1 billion go to?
0.38 in the beginning.
They went to the mother.
To the what?
The
To
mother.
the mother.
The mother.
To the mother?
So that was dad's seed.
So the mother took enormous quantities of resources in, in order to process them and take a tiny part to nourish the little features.
Well,
You understand what I'm trying to say?
it takes a topological brain to subtract Fibonacci from compounding and come up with the mother. Thank you very much.
But do you understand what I mean here?
Yeah, I totally.
Susan does.
The mother, after inception, the mother is left with a seed. And
It's the
and
afterbirth.
it is upon
Yeah.
the mother to take all of those resources around and digest them and then extract what is necessary for the survival and the
Mhm.
transformation of the fetus to take place according to the operating system. Right?
Yep.
So if you compare what goes to the baby in relationship to what the mother in took, I believe you have that ratio.
Is the difference. Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. All that, and we're still on time, imagine.
Well, but I haven't finished my takeaway.
I didn't say you had.
Go on, Steve. Sorry to steal your time.
You're just, you just reminded me I have 2 minutes left. So whatever it was, I was going to say, I can't say it in order to finish.
Yes, you
our time.
can. Yes, you can.
Okay.
We all did.
I want to point out that Joe was kind enough to put the YouTube link for that TetraMeme conversation in the chat. So you guys should click on that, pull it off, and then watch it before next week. And then we'll know where to stop, because it kind of frustrated me. There's such good stuff coming. And I'm glad to do that. The other thing.
So you put the YouTube, I see, yes, we're doing it.
Hey, Steve, I'm confused. Are we watching it together next week, or are we going to watch it beforehand?
You can watch it on your own, or we can watch it together. I'd like to watch it together next week. And if you want to watch it early to get some premonition out of it, go ahead.
I wouldn't care to watch twice. If we're watching it next week, I'll wait to spend my time there with you guys. Sounds
Okay,
good.
cool. And the other thing that let me see, I've got a note here of what my big epiphany is before I get lost over here. Okay. Something that was said very in passing is that thinking is brain and it's local. Imagination is mind and it's macro. And I had never gotten that differentiation between thinking and brain and imagination and mind. And that plopped out today. And I was very excited about that, because we've always talked about how symbols store information. That's imagination. So symbols are mind and thinking is brain. Thoughts are brain, words are brain, symbols are mind. That was a big thing for me. The other thing that I got today was that one of the things that came up for me this last week that I've been really focusing on, it's one of the things in my book, because I'm trying to get this idea of samadhi focus, and I'm trying to explain samadhi focus and the benefits of samadhi, the benefits of focusing. And what came up for me was this idea of compression. And here's the little example that I found over here. Let me pull this thing off. I got too much stuff going on over here. Okay, so in fact, I want to just go ahead and minimize that. Okay, good. And then I'm going to zoom in on this. So I don't know if you guys know how file compression works, but I maybe have known about it, but it didn't really hit me. So we have this high here, and we come over here and we we put it on a grid. Now, in other words, here's the context, here's the text, the content. And then in order to understand the text, we need to have the context, what goes with the text. As I take a look at compression, so in compression, what they do is they create a grid, they create a context around the text. And then we start to analyze the context, and we start saying, okay, in this little line here, we've got white squares and we got black squares. Then we zoom, so we're in local, black and white. Now we start zooming out, and we see that there are 12 white squares in front of that black square. So now we continue to zoom out, and we end up having these WWWs. It comes out there are 18 characters when I compress these down to 12 white instead of 12 individual white squares. I say 12W, and then I have one black, and then 12 white, and then 3 black. Here are the 3 black right here because I moved this in too tight. Then 12 more white. And so now I can take this thing and compress it. That's what our brain does every day. That's what the human brain does every day. It takes everything out of context and sticks it into a thinking, into a dot. So it can think it, so it can apprehend and comprehend. In order for me to understand reality, I've got to decompress my perception. And I have the opportunity to look at a black dot in terms of context. That came up for me. And of course, that has everything to do, Joe, I was talking with Joe about this yesterday, and he brought up Gestalt. And this old diagram, you guys get it, right? Whether it's a vase or 2 faces, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Yep.
about what is the context and what is the content. And I can have different paradigms on context or content, and it helps me form my reality. So we talked about context and content today again, which blew my mind. So I love how everything moves in a thing. I'm really grateful. I couldn't find the TetraMeme video. I wanted to go to that webinar for 52 Living, and it was at exactly the wrong time for me, and I was out. And Joe found that link for me because I looked all over for it and couldn't find it. So Joe, thank you for finding that. You guys, I'm really grateful for, wow, where else do I have this kind of conversation? Right? Jeez. And like I think Susan said last time, this is my normal. Everything else is boring for me. I mean,
Right.
I have to breathe through everything else. So I'm really grateful for this conversation, and I'm grateful for Manu, you sharing. And Manu, I'm going to spend an hour or two. I'm going to take the transcript of this meeting, and I'm going to edit it down a little bit and send it to you. I think this is the beginning of your book.
Thank you.
And I think that we could take this transcript and go through, and you can edit it and say what you want to say.
Yep.
Be careful, because you tend to go way out there way too fast. And
Stay out of the weeds, man.
my feedback to you, Manu, is that, and this happens to me, I say, Manu, what did you just say? Because I can't understand your word. And you go off and explain the next phase to me, because you know that what you said ain't as cool as about what you're about to say. And as a result, you leave me in the dirt. And I saw Wayne get left in the dirt a couple times with me. I was in the dirt over there because you just keep going to the next thing. And if you want people to get it, Manu, you've got to pause and say to me what I just said to you in your own words. And if they can't say it back to you, they don't get it. And if you go off and continue to explain the 3rd or 4th layer of the inverse square law, I didn't understand the 1st layer. And my mind gets blown. So I love your brain. You have the most topological brain I know. I don't know if it's your African genetics or if you're just weird like me. I'm not sure what it is, but I think it could be that bush, that Aboriginal mentality that just comes through. And I just love the way you look at life, my friend. I'm so honored to be in your space. And that is true for each of us. Tom,
It's
thanks for jumping in as the new
really
guy.
being around you guys. It has nothing to do with James.
Well, I love it. I think genetic code has a lot to do with how I perceive my reality. Tom, thanks for jumping in and just being part of this so quickly. Joe, you're the next youngest guy, and you've jumped in and just really made major contributions. Thank you guys so much. Susan, Manu, and Wayne. And Wayne is the guy who invited me here a few years ago. And I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
You've never cursed me for that?
No,
Good.
I love how you've been patient with me. Thanks. All right, I'm complete.
Hey,
We ready for next time?
yep.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you
Have a
all.
great day.
It's wonderful. Yep. Have a great week.
Take care, everyone.
I'm going to look at your dreaming mind comment, Manu, because I have 4 levels of consciousness, and dreaming mind is like just before transcendent mind. So we have waking mind, sleeping mind, dreaming mind, and transcendent mind, according to Hindu tradition. So I'm going to take a look at what you said there and then put it in that context.
Okay.
I'm so grateful for you being in my life. Wow.
Thank you, Steve.
You betcha.
All right.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.